Good day, everybody. It's Mark Arnstein, and this is the Mark Arnstein Show. This is episode number 20. I'm here today with our man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Steve Tabrizi, our CEO of RE/MAX Hallmark. Just give Steve a quick introduction, because I think he totally deserves one because of his wealth of knowledge and information that he does provide. He is our CEO of the Hallmark Group of Companies. He's a broker of record for our Durham office. Steve joined Hallmark in 2006, having formerly owned and managed his own real estate firm. Steve and I actually, for the record, I did my very first deal ever when I moved to Toronto with Mr. Tabrizi back, over 18 years ago. He oversees and manages all the company's operations. Steve provides leadership, direction, and administration with regards to all aspects of the company's activities. And in addition to the daily management of multiple offices, he provides an accessible, no-nonsense, and creative management, which is totally true, approach focusing on agent success. With a passion for real estate technology, he's deeply involved in researching the newest and most effective ways to integrate new technology into real estate business processes. Steve is an amateur soccer player, and his passion for people and architecture made him a natural when it came to appreciating the value of real estate. Steve, welcome to the show, my friend, from Florida.
Thank you very much, Mark. It's, as always, my pleasure to be at your show, living North Toronto. And my gosh, 18 years is gone by. It's like yesterday, man. It was like yesterday that you and me, we did a deal.
Yeah, that's crazy. I was actually just thinking about it the other day because we were getting organized for the show today. And I'm like, oh my God, it was a little, I think, one bedroom and den condo down on Harbor.
Yeah, I don't even recall anymore because I haven't touched any sales activities, as you know. But hey, perhaps we should take a look at that deal, see how much we did a transaction and how much it's worth today.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be a fun little project for sure.
It would be.
So the reason I want to have Steve on today, and I think this is so important for all the viewers who are going to be watching this episode, hopefully, which will be a ton of you. We've seen the mortgage variable rate, prime Bank of Canada lending rate has changed. It's changed now 7 times since the 3rd or 4th month of the year, and when the market started to do that big change and shift to where we're going to now. So with Steve, who is a guru of numbers and macros and numbers and insides and outs, where do you see and how do you feel with mortgage rates and what the Bank of Canada is probably going to do over the next little while moving forward? Because at some point, something's got to give here. Because I personally, in my opinion, I think what they're doing is actually a massive hindrance to the overall economy as opposed to actually helping. Because the issue of like the so-called recession stuff that we're talking about right now is a supply chain issue. It's not there are so many jobs available. It's just that people just don't want to take them.
Yeah, true. But you know what? I think a lot of people just pay attention to the change of the interest rate and rising of the interest rate. But I think let's take a look at what has happened. So during the pandemic, the federal government, in order to stimulate the market and convince or encourage consumers, average people like you and me, to not stop spending, they lowered the rate so drastically to 1/4 point. But consumers, they don't pay attention. That wasn't the real rate. It was a short period of the time, which is basically, it's called part of the stimulus package. The interest rate should have been anywhere around, basically overnight lending rate should have been anywhere around 2.5 to 3, technically in a very steady, healthy, normal market. So consumers are saying, oh, we had a 7 times increase. No, we didn't have a 7 times increase. We literally have to count it, let's say, from a 2.5 point to 4.25. So the rate didn't go up by 3.75 or 4%. The rate basically went up to by 2%.
Right.
And unfortunately, the Bank of Canada has only one tool in its arsenal to combat the inflation, is rising the interest rate to discourage the consumers, stop spending. Yes, it will have some negative side impact, particularly on the infrastructure and investment by business sectors, and also sort of discouraging the consumers. Okay, your cost of living is gone through the roof. Therefore, I can't spend further money on the things that I want to enjoy. Could be expanding in real estate, could be traveling, could be renovation, could be buying other consumers' goods and product. But there is another announcement coming at the end of the January, and I have a strong feeling and indication. So, and also let's pay attention to the inflation. The inflation was 8.1. As of the last month, is sitting at 6.8. And right. The Bank of Canada's impression of the rising the interest rate was on the same way, rapid drop in the inflation. It's not going to happen. All the bankers across the global market, they have made the same similar wrong assumption. Why? Because you gotta, I'm not throwing the economists under the bus, but I don't blame them. They made all their assumption based on the historical stats. In previous era, when the inflation was up, they increased the interest rate, the inflation came back down. But as you noted, Mark, this time around, the problem is the supply chain. The problem is the cost of the living. The problem is employment sector, and everything is basically outside of the norm of the cycle of the economic cycle that they ever seen in the last 100 years. So yes, if you take a look at the last increase, finally, we are noticing the employment sector unemployment is rising very normal, but it's sort of a give and take. We see in 2 months unemployment is rising, and we see the next month suddenly we have a massive job growth. So, and then these economists are just saying, okay, what happened again? Why the economy is so? Is actually the discussion of about the recession now has changed how Canadian economy has been resilient towards all these changes. Are we going to have another increase? Yes, maybe by another quarter point. Are we going to have the way they want the inflation come back to 2 or 3%? Forget it. I guarantee you it's not going to happen soon. We'd be lucky. We will see maybe in 2024 and 2025 sort of normalization of the inflation rate. Maybe the new norm of the inflation rate, it won't be 2 or 3%. Maybe it will be 3 or 4% down the road. We are in a sort of a territories that nobody have ever experienced it. And I think, and until we can balance the cost of the goods because of the supply chain, this inflation issue will continue and will be resilient towards basically coming down.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, I think the thing is right now is that there's jobs out there for people to get. So normally in a recession, you have there's no jobs. Like there's not enough jobs for people to get work, and people are freaking out. That's not the issue. And like I was saying the other day, we were in Montreal a couple months ago for my son's hockey tournament, and at the hotel we were staying at, the restaurant and the hotel could not open for lunch and dinner because they have no staff to fill and run the restaurant. And even like maid service to the room, like they don't have enough people to come and clean the rooms. So like all you could do is ask for towels, and they leave a bag of towels out by your door when you came back to your room to give you towels for the next day. And I don't know if you're around Benjamin Tal with that Richard Robbins back in November, and what he's saying is what he sees is happening is that when COVID hit, the older people that were in those types of jobs, like supply chain jobs, service jobs, industry jobs, a lot of them were of older age groups and said, you know what, I'm just gonna take my early retirement and call it a day, and I'm done with this. And the younger crowd who's coming up in behind them now that would normally fall into those positions have actually done a better job of getting more educated. And they're like, well, wait, I don't want to do that job. I want to use my education for what I went to school for. So I want a job that's going to be applicable to what I've learned in school, and I can use my knowledge. And they're not willing to take those jobs. So they're holding out to try and find the jobs that they can use that are more appropriate to their skill set.
Well, that's one element that the Benjamin Tal mentioned to it. But you also got to understand during the COVID, what happened, individual perspective of the life totally changed. The baby boomer, exactly as you mentioned, they said, okay, you know what? That's enough. I'm going. But also, we are in the massive interprovincial migration. The cost of the living in a big urban center such as Toronto and Montreal, big cities, is gone through the roof. So those service sector that they used to have easy access to employees, they don't, because a lot of younger generation, they're saying, hold on a second, I can't live in Toronto. I'm moving to Barrie. I'm moving to London, Ontario. I'm moving to Ottawa. So a big market such as Toronto is now suffering the lack of employees because those people are gone. Those people are either gone or they are not willing to work for the wages that they are offering them because it's very minimal and the cost of living is really crazy. So that's why we have an employment issue. And it will continue to have that issue for perhaps at least about a year and a half.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll just jump forward for a second, and that goes into the next second to talk about, which is like even the rental market right now. You look what's happened in the rental market, especially for condos, like for 1-bedroom and dens, 2 bedrooms. They're like it's off the charts right now. I mean, everything is going in multiple offers. Prices are going through the roof, and it's a two-part problem. One is that there's a lack of availability, number one, and number two is because the fact that it's so difficult right now to get rid of, unfortunately, if you have a bad tenant or you have problems with your existing tenant, the landlords are so heavily scrutinizing any application that comes through. So unless you have an absolutely unbelievable credit score or you got just the ratings through the roof, it's going to be extremely difficult to get a rental today, especially in the city of Toronto. Which also goes into the other thing, which makes no sense to me, is the two parts to this. I'll let you answer all this because it's going to be one loaded question. But then you have the fact that you have now this foreign buyers exemption tax or purchasability that they can't buy a property coming in for the next 2 years, combined with the fact that the government now wants to bring in 500,000 new immigrants into the country over the next 2 years, half of which are going to end up in the major cities, which is either going to be in the GTA or probably most likely in Vancouver. So one is, where are they all going to live, and how much more pressure is that just going to add to what already is a hyper-competitive market, especially in the rental sector?
Well, this is the very hot topic that I've been talking about it for the last 10 years. I've been quite vocal about it. You got 4 tiers of the government. Let's only focus on 2 tiers, the federal and the provincial. Feds, they know that employment sector in Canada is getting old. They know they need labor force. The pillar of the immigration in Canada has been only for one purpose behind it. We need labor force. Doesn't matter. Could be skilled worker, could be professional, could be doctor, could be engineer, you name it. So our population is getting really old. Our workforce is getting old and getting out. So they need to bring. So you got a federal government, it's just saying, okay, I'm going to bring 500,000. 62% of them, as of last year, are settling in Ontario. 62% of the 500,000. So, and then you got a province, which is another level of the government, can't keep up with the housing. And take a look at it's very interesting. The interest rate is gone up to reduce the inflation, to balance the economy. But indirectly, the rise of the interest rate, yes, has reduced the activity of the real estate. Yes, has reduced the prices by about average $250,000 across all the housing sector in Ontario. But in the other hands, you actually removed 15% of a sector of the first-time buyer from the market because they won't qualify for a mortgage. So what's the cycle? The cycle is that 15% needs a housing, that's existing 15%. Don't even consider the newcomers coming. If the newcomers, let's call it 50,000 people, 50,000 people come every year to Toronto, which average of the household of the 3-person in a household, that's another 15,000 homes we need. So we remove the 15% of the buyers, first-time buyer. We add another 15,000. Guess which sector is going to be hot? Rental market. Rental market is gone through the roof. So it's a similar cycle that has happened for the last 20 years. First, the rental market gets hot. Then the people are saying, hold on a second, am I crazy to pay $3,000 rent for a one bedroom? Mark, find me a home, I don't know, in Hamilton. I don't care as long as I just can pay the $3,000. So we are going through the same cycle. We are not actually helping the housing market to create a balance between buyer and seller or supply and demand. We are actually throwing more fuel in the housing market. We are only taking the sort of the bubble or the burst out of it only temporarily. It's just a temporary measure. The minute this momentum built up again, you will see by the end of this year and early next year, we will see the uprising of the gain in the prices and the activities of the market.
I agree. I'm of the same mindset too. I think is you look around right now and there's still so little inventory on the market, and it's like because nobody is under any pressure whatsoever to sell their house, right? So they're only going to sell as if they still have the mindset is if I know where I'm going and there's an opportunity to get something bigger and better than what I already have. And the other problem is you have, and this is the part that blows me out of the water, is the government now, because they've cracked down so much on the HST with builders and contractors, that the renovation home that's had a massive renovation to it, which would be subject to HST, or a brand new construction, obviously, which is subject to HST, those small independent guys for the one-off infills have now basically been wiped out of the market because they can no longer make any money doing those projects. Because the problem is by the time you buy, especially if you're in the city of Toronto, and you, between your closing costs of 2 land transfer tax, city and provincial, your HST to get back out, your commission to get back out, plus your carrying costs, you're 20% in the hole before you even start, and there's not 20% profit in there to begin with in the first place. So, and the problem is the demand for that finished product is so high because most people don't want to go through the hassles of doing it themselves. They want the convenience factor to be able to move right in because they don't want to have to, wait a year to get permits and get approval for it because that takes forever. Then there's the carrying cost of having to do it. Plus, you got to move twice because you got to probably have to go sell your home, go into a rental, and then find some rental that you don't want to be living in for while you're doing your construction. So now you're paying the carrying costs on the construction and that property plus your rental costs. So they'd rather just have the convenience factor and go right into it. So you've actually created less inventory as opposed to more inventory. And now it's putting more pressure on those types of products. And there's such a simple and easy solution to it. And I don't know how we can get this message across, but why are you double dipping on the HST? If you didn't pay HST when you bought the land, right, then why is it on the full entire sale price when the product is finished? So all you have to do is take it. Well, hold on, here's my thought. Just if I buy something for $1 million and I sell it for 2.5 using simple numbers, take the $1 million that I bought it for back out of the equation, right? And now only charge HST on the 1.5 because that's the improvements and the additional upbeat in the cost. And not only that makes it more palatable for the builder or the contractor to do it, but then on top of that, you now have all your trades working legitimately, no more cash under the table for the trades guys, and which means they're all going to now file proper tax returns, which means the government's now going to get more money coming out on income tax perspective from the tradespeople, and everyone comes out ahead.
Well, see, all the issues that you just shared here.
There's a lot, sorry.
These are micro level issues. We got a macro level issues. The $1 million question is, how can we have increased the inventory of the housing? I've been saying this for years again. That train had left the station 20 years ago. We need consistent policies, and frankly, it has to start from the federal government, because it's bringing 500,000 newcomer to the country, needs to lead with the national housing policies and control that policies. It has to be taken away from the provinces. But what it needs a partnership with the provinces in terms of the funding. All the red tapes that you just shared and you discuss, yes, it will impact the industry. Yes, it will reduce the inventory level. but the percentage are here, there. But if you really want to address this proper way, every time all these policies are announced, the HST, the foreign ban is only for next 2 years. Let's take a look at it 2 years from now. Part of my language is all BS, because by the time the next by the time the next election is going to happen, who is the next party? Who is the next leader? What policies they're going to bring? How can we solve a housing inventories policies over the course of a 4 years term? It's impossible. We are just fooling ourselves.
Yeah, even the foreign buyers ban for the next 2 years. There's so many
loopholes.
Yeah, loopholes for it. Like, so if you have a student visa, you have a work visa, you have married to someone who is already living in Canada, a partnership, all those things are exempt from. It still allows you to buy property. I think if you're buying in a recreational area, like a ski resort, you can still purchase. If you're buying multifamily, like something that's multiple units, you can still purchase property. So it's smoke and mirrors. And I think if you look at the numbers, a buddy of mine in Vancouver did this for BC, and he was saying, I think it was like 1 point, and this is where it's heavy too, especially in Vancouver. The foreign buyers were made up of 1.3% of the market. 1.3%. So like
the notion of the foreign is someone who is not having Canadian residence or status. The percentage, as you said, is very little. I'm a savvy real estate investor, Canadian savvy real estate investor like you. The truth is this: they need to tackle the multi-investors group if they really want to really have a different level of taxation from investor versus the end user, which they are not doing it. Guess why they are not doing it? Because it's a political suicide. Because people like you and me who are living here, are investor savvy and paying our taxes, are going to say, hold on a second. So you are taking my ability and my right to invest in a housing in the Canadian market because now I got to pay more taxes versus somebody who is an end user. Guess what? I'm taking my money somewhere else.
Yeah.
And they don't want to do that. So the solution is the inventory. The solution is remove the red tape. The solution is whoever is going to be in a power, create a national policies that the next prime minister, next premier cannot touch it. It's a national 25 years policies. And then they have to revisit every decade and what they're going to do with it. And it's not going to happen. I'm telling you, I've been saying this. It won't happen in my lifetime, and it won't happen in your lifetime. And the more the discrepancies and the chaos is going forward, the only good things out of this chaos is happening. The wealth of the Canadian market is spreading across small urban cities. This country was up to 5 years ago, Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, some degree when the oil market was good, Calgary. Now you see a really robust small market such as London, Ottawa, Simcoe, Durham region, and Nova Scotia. And I'm very happy for that, because I'm happy now the wealth is not concentrated in 3 cities. It's really spreading across. And if really the federal government wants an immediate action to this issue, they should come up with the mandate of the policy, force the immigrant, the newcomers, they go across the country. Not 62% comes to Ontario. And it is a doable mandate. They can do it. But the problem is the federal government needs a massive infrastructure investment in personnel, in system, in controlling the policies, which they are not doing it. They're failing really from the federal level of the infrastructure of the policies and also personnel. They don't have enough manpower to control the system.
No, it's really unfortunate. I mean, it's, I like, why don't they actually have roundtable discussions and have open conversations with people who actually are on the ground and are involved in this on a daily basis before they start throwing things out there that absolutely make no sense whatsoever. And, one topic I'll get into just real quick, just doing a bit of a pivot, is I thought this was a great thing I saw the other day. Because everyone says, oh, well, I'm just going to wait to buy because I'm waiting for all these guys to go into default on their mortgages, and there's going to be all these foreclosures because people aren't going to be able to afford their homes anymore. Well, first off, number one, the banks do not want to own people's homes. They're not. They have no interest in doing that. They're going to do everything in their power to make sure people can stay in their homes, for sure, 100%. Number two is the stats were out, like, because I think there was a the new CEO from Scotia was predicted there was going to be 20,000 foreclosures within, like, I think the next little while off of their portfolio. It was something like that. But the actual foreclosure rate in Canada is right now, since the rate started to rise in the third quarter, is the lowest it has ever been in the last 25, 30 years.
Well, so let's actually I like to always look at from the approach of the numbers, as you know me well.
You love your numbers.
I look at the numbers. The numbers, they don't lie. So let's give them the credit, the Scotiabank or whoever made such an announcement. The biggest growth of the real estate market in the last 50 years was 2021. 121,000 transactions in the GTA. Average price went up by almost 33%. Okay, 121,000 transactions. Right. Let's assume what they are saying. And guess what? Those people, they lock their mortgage at the 5 years of the 1.8. So it won't happen from that group in the last 3 years because they have a phenomenal mortgage rate that they are now having a party. They're basically saying, oh my God, I'm so lucky I locked it. So we are looking at the people that either this year or second part of last year, they came for renewal. Most banks are recommending renewal for 2 years because most banks are recommending the rate is coming down. Interesting fact that the banks already started. I got a text this morning from the TD Bank and another bank and a colleague that bought a property. 5 years fixed mortgage last month was sitting at about 5.8 to 6.2. Right now, TD Bank and other major banks are offering 5 years fixed mortgage at 4.95. Okay, so let's remember that. Let's remember a healthy market, a good 5 years mortgage rate in a normal good market in 2018 and 19 was about 3.5 to 3.9. So we are not that far. We are actually 1% only up. So let's assume the people that they are renewing now, suddenly their monthly payment is gone by $1,000. The biggest growth of the sector right now in the market that is buying and sweeping all the real estate assets are multi-owner real estate investors. So if there is even an inventory level of the power of sale, do you think it's going to sit on the market? No way. It's going to get wiped out by massive investor group, by institutional investor group, which they used to be only in US. Now they are moving to Canada because they are saying, holy macro, the Canadian market has always been steady, never had a similar crashes that US had. So in the big picture, even 20,000 inventory of the power of sale across Canada compared to the number of the housing in Canada is nothing, but it's not going to happen. Lastly, people got to pay attention. 7 times interest rate increase. If the Canadian household were under the pressure and a stress, why we have a lack of inventory? Canadian housing, Canadian home ownership always has been solid, particularly in the last 3 years because of the difficulty of getting qualified, because of the stress test. Average Joe put anywhere between 15 to 20% down payment. So they got enough equity in the market. Yeah. Then there is a discussion out there among these bankers. Oh, the market has dropped by 30% in terms of the prices. Okay, great. Anybody goes do a comparison of the 2021, which was the peak. February 2022 was the peak. February of the 2022, which about 11 months ago. Compare to the March of the 2020 when the COVID happened, okay? So yes, we had a massive, from March of 2022 to February 2022, 47%. We have dropped by only about 26%. So that means we are still above 20% compared to 2020. So how much more are we going to lose? Another 5%, another 10%? I don't think so. The Canadian, they will lose equity from their value of their home the way the media is describing it. Worst case scenario is, yes, let's also acknowledge this. Yes, if somebody bought in 2021, early 2022, and if they have to sell because of maybe lifestyle change, job changes, yes, they will lose money. No question about it. There's no question about it. But that percentage is very small compared to the 5 years average. So inventory is the key. Unemployment is the key. And massive immigration is the key. And unless these three factors are really impacted heavily, I don't see any fear or any issues to be fearful for 2023 or 2024.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I couldn't agree with you more, 100%. And even if you go back and look at, I was looking at the prices from 2019 before all this even started. Like, if you look at I did a vlog on it. It was October sales on 2019, and with the average price of a home in the GTA, I think it was in October of 2019, it was in just under 900,000. In 2020, it jumped to in the mid nines. In 2021, it jumped to 1,185,000, 190, and then it pulled back in 2022 down to just under 1.1. So if you compare that from October 2019 to where it ended up in 2022, it's like you said, it's still up like 20 some odd percent from the growth. So that's phenomenal, right? If you look at it, is that we got so spoiled with such massive growth so quickly, and people don't realize that was not sustainable. That growth could not last the way it was going because it was getting out of control. So, and I think in essence, it was somewhat good that we pulled back a bit, because I think it's getting more of a healthier, more realistic market going forward, like you said, for 23, 24. And I agree with you. Again, there's no inventory out there still. It's still, I mean, even this week alone, watching listings or come on to the market, it's been far and few between. And most of it was stuff that was on the market from towards the end of last year that got canceled and then got relisted again. So there still really hasn't been anything massively new coming out there. And with all the immigration coming in, and, like I said, rates are up, but we were spoiled with cheap money for so long that we just have to get more in tune with this is really a regular norm where we're at right now. I had a podcast I did with one of my mortgage brokers, and I was saying, I got my first mortgage in 97. I had 6.25 for a 5-year fix back then.
Oh, right? Wow. And that you were lucky 6%. I had my first mortgage at 13.75.
Yeah. Well, you're a little older than I am, Steve. But I love you. Yeah, no, but I'm saying, and in 97, 6.25, that was a phenomenal deal back then. So you think about what you just said earlier, where we're at, with mortgage rates being, for a 5-year fix under 5%, that's not bad. That's normal rate borrowing costs.
Listen, I said it earlier last year when the start of the rise of the interest rate. I said every shift in the market, I don't like to call it down market, is a shift in the market. You want to call it shift. The shift create opportunity. My biggest fear and my biggest concern is we'll see an opportunity right now for sector and a segment that either want to downsize, either want to invest, either is not a first-time home buyer. Those are the three segments that they basically, there's opportunity for them. They are buying the product with $250,000 cheaper than was before. Yes, their interest rate is higher. The payment is almost the same or maybe a little bit more. My biggest concern is this cycle that now the rental market goes through the roof immediately will cause, that's why we already noticed. Today is the 12th of the January. Our company, as you know, is across Ontario, and we really get a good indicator of different market. We are from eastern boundary of the Ottawa all the way to London, all the way to Simcoe County and Muskoka. So I get the report on a daily basis, what's happening in even a smaller center to the big center. Already I'm noticing across that basically multiple offer, but a different form of the multiple offer, not like 2021, $500,000 over asking price. It's happening with the condition is happening. But what I'm noticing right now, the rental people are saying, no, I'm not going to rent. This is crazy. I'm going to go buy. So they are going to smaller urban. And what's going to happen, watch, in the next 6 to 9 months, you will see again, from the smaller urban, the suburb will have a robust market. Then people say, okay, maybe the condo market is appealing. And then from the condo market, there will be a movement again to the freehold or detached or semis home. So this cycle will continue for maybe another next 12 to 18 months. And then my biggest fear, back to what I am trying to emphasize, is 2 years from now, we're back to square one. The market again is going to go upward trajectory. So this cycle of the 3 to 5 years keep repeating itself. Is it sustainable every 3 to 5 years this happen? Is it good for the future generation, your children, my children, that this is going to happen? No, it's not really good. And we really need to find a solution to this, that we have a healthy and balanced market. A lot of people are now comparing us constantly to the US. Oh, look at the US market is shifting. Look at the US market. Some states the market is halted. They have massive inventory, but they don't understand that the Canadian culture, Canadian philosophy behind the home ownership is totally different than American philosophy. In US, the interstate migration has been there for years. It's a massive country with a lot of job opportunity. Somebody from Ohio get a job offer in Florida, bank, they just sell, they just move because they got a job. In Canada, that job opportunity of the interprovincial migration because of the jobs is not there yet. So people are moving only with a certain distance from the job hub. The job hubs are Toronto, Ottawa, Vancouver, Montreal, and province of Ontario is going to benefit more than any other province in the next 5 years. Because if the small urban cities in Ontario, the mayors and the city councilor are smart, they should really create more job attraction in their smaller urban center, because they're going to attract the employment to their sector. Once you attract employment to your sector, guess what? Your local real estate economy will be booming. Toronto will be the one that probably will suffer the most in terms of employment, because it's becoming more expensive. But is it going to be in a year or 2 years, the massive shift from Toronto? No. This is maybe another 10 to 15 years once you see the sort of the spread of the employment and housing across province in a maybe more equilibrium and normal way.
Yeah, the only thing I just question your thought there, with the people going from rental realizing they're better off going into buying, is with now rates being where they are. So basically, say for every $100,000 you borrow is roughly about $650 to $700 a month. So if you're looking at paying $3,500 a month on a rental, that 35 only gets you into what, about $500,000 mortgage?
Yeah, it gets you to $500,000 mortgage. Yeah, so it's actually, with the new announcement now with the major bank, every $100,000 is about $550. So $3,500 will get you about $600,000 roughly. But what's going to happen, if you recall, 20 years ago, the idea of the basement rental, the idea of the multiplex, what now they call it. Old days we used to call it basement rental. Now they call it multiplex. So those ideas are going to come back. And that's why you see the province made an announcement, in a single family dwelling land, you can build up to 3 units. So it's very interesting. People say, oh my God, this is a great policy by the province. But guess what the province just did immediately? The value of those single home with those single lot is just gone up by 20%, because now you can diversify them to 3 units. Okay. So you will see now more co-ownership. You will see more people that they will look for somewhere that has a basement apartment. You will see more people going to reach out to you and say, okay, maybe I should buy in Pickering. Maybe I should buy in Keswick. Maybe I should buy in Hamilton, because that's where they see the affordability. Or maybe they will say, yes, I like to stay in sort of, I call it the 416 area. And maybe for me, the next option would be a condo market.
Right. But with that province allowing that to happen with us having up to 3 units in one dwelling, because the bank policies had changed, like I think it was like 15, 20 years ago, or maybe 25 years ago, where they wouldn't qualify you on the mortgage now, or with the income from the rental, or it'd be a very small portion of it could be used towards the qualification of for the mortgage. So is that?
Yeah, it's going to change. The banks they end up having change of policies to align themselves with what the governments, provincial and federal governments are coming along. Otherwise, they want to. Why do you think suddenly the first week of 2023, major banks are now suddenly have a special in the 5 years, 4.95? It's a business.
Yeah.
It's a business. The banks, they have a fiscal year of, I don't know if you know or not, the bank fiscal year is October to October. Their best period of the time that they will come with the specials are right after the New Year's, because they want to grab the market share. All the banks are compete with each other. 4.95, it's a fantastic 5 years lock rate if somebody want to come enter to the market. So yeah, the bank with the multi-dwelling, they're going to come up with a different policy. But also there is another thing that we need to note. There is so much money on the street. We used to have 5 major banks. Canadian philosophy. I only deal with the brick and mortar when I see a branch. Right now, there are dozen of we used to call them B lender. Now they call them alternative lender. FCT, Capital, you name it. And they are actually competing in a very competitive way with the bank. Maybe their rate is 1/4 point or 1/2 point higher than bank, but their qualification is a lot easier.
Steve, listen, you and I could sit here and talk like all day about this stuff, because I think we're both pretty passionate about the information we're spewing out here for over the last little while. And I don't want to keep you any longer than I already have. And I know you want to get back to doing where you are and having enjoying the sunshine down there, because there's no sun here. I've been home. I just said to my wife the other day, I'm like, it's crazy. We've been back for over a week and we have not seen the sun since we've gotten back.
Hey, listen, we are lucky. This year has been good. Not much snow, a little bit cold, but hey, it's mid-January and we don't have no major snowstorm.
No, for sure. Okay, so before I let you sign off, give me your top 3 predictions for 2023.
We will have most likely another rate hike by the end of this month, but only 1/4 point. We will see by fall of this year that the inflation massively start to drop, probably from 6.8 will be around 4.5 to 5%, which to me is a very good movement. We will see very strong spring market, mark my words, that is basically is going to be robust spring market. Many of Hallmark agents are bringing great quality of the product listing, including you, into the market. So the buyers are ready to buy. We see this year a shift of the mindset. The buyer mindset has accepted the new rate. We see a shift of mindset among the seller, which we were waiting for. Basically, yes, I can get the price of the 2021 or early 2022. This is the new norm. And from the fall of this year, we will see slow rebound of the market. Do we see it go up vertically by 20, 30%? No, we will have the same momentum of the 2018 and 19 gradually going up. And those are my prediction for this year. I don't think so. We will have a recession. Even if the unemployment rate rise up to 6 and 6.5, which is the prediction, I think it's a good unemployment rate. Just before the COVID, we were sitting at about 5.9. So 6.5 is not bad. And so it should be a good, healthy, steady, balanced market. And we should lower our expectation as a consumers. What I used to get for my price, what I used to get for my interest rate is gone. That was a phenomenon that we had. Some people took advantage of it. Some people didn't. So make your decision, right decision, make your move, the right move. And my last comment would be, you sell high, you buy high. You sell low, you buy low. There is no winning in the between.
No. Listen, if all of us could sell high and buy low, we'd all be multimillionaires, and it's not possible. It doesn't happen, right? So I would say the same thing. As long as whatever you're doing is it happens in the same market, it's all good.
And if you are out there, and if you truly care for your next generation, your families, your children, your sibling, anybody, get involved in real estate. Start becoming a home ownership from some point. Stop thinking, oh my God, if the price drop, what's going to happen? Real estate is a long-term game. It's not a short-term game.
Absolutely. Build that generational wealth as soon as you possibly can, because you're only going to benefit from it. There's no loss. It's only upside, no downside.
You got it, buddy.
Steve, thank you so much. Enjoy your time down there. Thank you for doing this. I appreciate you so much. You're absolutely just incredible. God bless. All the best. Happy New Year. And look forward to seeing you on your return back to Toronto.
Thank you, my friend. Stay safe.
Thank you. All the best. Take care, pal. Bye-bye.